Nigerian Airlines are still grappling with operational challenges as they work to accommodate passengers and try as much as possible to clear the backlog caused by the recent strike embarked on by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress to press their demand for the implementation of a new national minimum wage. Although the strike was momentarily suspended, it disrupted flight schedules and caused logistics issues for several airlines. Now, how debilitating was it for Nigeria's aviation sector? Olumide Ohunayo, General Secretary, Aviation Safety Roundtable, is here to further explain this to us. Thank you so much, Olumide, for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, pretty disturbing, I must say, was the organized labor's induced strike. Now, how challenging has it been for airlines since the strike commenced? We know it's been suspended for now, but what's the situation like with flight operations, schedules, and logistics?
Well, I think the domestic airlines had more impact of that strike than the international carriers, because for the international carriers, the unions gave them 48 hours to plan, and they were going to come to the airport on Tuesday. But by Tuesday, when they were about to close the international airport, they had called off the strike. But then some of the international carriers had already rescheduled one or two flights, so it wasn't as impactful as it had on the domestic airlines. And like you said, the analysis, we are still going through the backlog and the backlash of the strike. The airlines are yet to get some of those airlines, some of the passengers, as those flights were cancelled back on the schedule them on another flight, and that's why flights are so expensive now. If you walk straight to the airport to pick a ticket now, you must have nothing less than about 200,000 naira with you if you want to fly on the spot. So. Coupled with Dana Airline that was grounded, it has made some routes, particularly routes to this Port Harcourt, to Wiri, and some of the routes that Dana was operating before. That now has reduced capacity and also has made fares jump. The fares cannot match the demand on routes. Okay. Again, most of the airlines are not leasing aircrafts anymore. They are not. They've returned their wet leases and make use of the aircrafts they have. And they've not been able to bring back aircraft that are outside for maintenance. So the capacity within the market is low compared to the demand, and the prices are not staying good for consumers. So if you really need to get a good fare, you need to travel ahead of time.
All right. So in those 2 days of strike, we heard that the organized labor allowed some airlines to operate international flights due to probably strategic reasons and for certain individuals on official duties. How true is that? Or was it a total grounding of all airlines?
Yeah, I just said that in the beginning of my presentation that the international airlines were not particularly affected. The private jets were also not affected. For the international airlines, they were the unions had given them a 48 hours notice that as the strike commences on the Monday, they were going to start for the international airports on the Wednesday, and so flights operated on day one of the strike, and even on day two. It was the day three that they were supposed to start at the international airport. That some airlines already cancelled their flights for that day before they realized that the union had called off the strike. So it was minimal. Yeah, there was a little distortion, but it was minimal compared to the domestic flight. And for the charter flights, the unions did not bother to go to the hangar of the private jets, and those ones had a field day during that period, and flights were still operating. But for the domestic flight, I think there was this cooperation, and there was total coordination from the National Union of Air Transport Workers, Air Transport Services Staff Association. They had cordoned off all the terminals in the principal states. I mean, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Wiri, and then passengers were not able to. The airline staff were not able to get to the airport, and it was too total. One thing about it was that it was not only the airlines that suffered. All those who had businesses within the airport, who are private sector owned organizations that are not government officials, everybody suffered that strike.
According to what we know, approximately about 30 tons of cargo were lifted across the country's domestic airports. Of course, are lifted across the country's domestic airports daily. But due to the strike, these airlines actually suffered losses of about 7 billion naira in cargo revenue. Now that we're beginning to see a clearing of the backlogs coming in bits, for now, how are the individuals and businesses reeling from the situation?
Well, they're trying to recoup. There's nothing they can do. It was a total shutdown, and they didn't have an alternative. They had backlog. As we had backlog in passengers, also what we had in cargo. The people would have been all the perishable cargo. Those would have been destroyed because of the time frame which were kept at the airport pending when this airport was going to be open. But for the non-perishable goods, that's was able to come, get back on. Able to get those back on after the strike, and that's moved on. But then it was a total loss. There was losses of funds for almost all parties: the airlines, airport operators, government agencies. Revenue was not generated because of those flights, and when there's no flight, nobody generates revenue at the airport. And like we said before, that's why we always advocate that we have a strong airline industry, because it's the airlines, we have aircrafts that bring revenue for all parts and the general ecosystem. So once there's no flight, every other person would not generate revenue. The landing and parking of the fan, the airspace charges of NAMA, even the Met and other organizations. So everybody depends on the airlines to operate. And I think we should try and resolve whatever issue that will bring about closing down the whole of the airports. I was surprised that the airport was going to be the first to go down on that strike. I was expecting that the airport would have been maybe the last sector to be shut down with the power industry. But unfortunately, the airline was the first to go to be shut down by the labor unions.
Okay. So now we hear that people can't buy tickets, and that will be until the backlogs are cleared. Nothing can be sold and nothing can be purchased. So how soon will that be sorted in order to resume ticket sales, and will costs be passed on to customers for the airlines that are actually incurred losses?
Tickets have been sold. That's not true. What has happened is that you just see that there's no space. Probably if you want to travel today and you walk up to the airport, you might not be able to get a seat. And if you have to get a seat, you have to pay the premium for that. Probably an economy seat. And some of those agents who have bought tickets before holding it will bring it out at a premium. You can get a seat, but you can't get a seat if you get to the airport, but it's going to be very expensive. So it is preferable you just go online and book for the nearest date available. The loss is there. They would have to take care of those who were victims of the strike, whose flights were cancelled. And in doing that, you cannot take those flights whose flights were not cancelled. You cannot take them on flight. You only have to add in when you get space to clear all your backlog. But yeah, there are flights going on now. So I've even introduced bigger aircrafts to some of the routes they have challenges, just to ensure that they clear all their passengers. But I can tell you, ticket prices are the premium now, and I would advise that if it is not really important, you don't go to the airport to say you want to pay cash and travel.
So what about these airlines and customers at this time? Is there anything to be done in terms of probably compensating those who actually, most especially the passengers now that their flights were disrupted, it affected their businesses? Is there anything being done to compensate them for this loss?
Well, compensation does not come in the purview of the airline because it was not the airline's fault. The airline only comes to compensate when it is by operational reasons caused by the airline themselves, but probably maybe the aircraft has a mechanical or the crew or the airline had the strike was targeted at the airline in particular. Then the airline takes responsibility for that. But in this case, it was a general strike, and it's beyond the control of the airline. So I think compensation is out of it from now. Except the government wants to compensate passengers. That's where they were victims of that strike.
Finally, before I let you go, Olumide Ohunayo.
There's nothing wrong in passengers. Maybe some passengers are taking a lawsuit to court, and let us test what the court will say.
Okay, before I let you go, earlier on you were talking about what needs to be done to actually mitigate situations like this if they reoccur. So I'd like to just quickly find out from you, do you think there is a way that airlines and labor unions can work together so that when there is a strike or an industrial action in place, it can, in terms of mitigating the impact on the airlines and the people, there can be some sort of deliberation or dialogue to actually make that happen?
Well, I mean, if it's a total strike, it now becomes very difficult for the airlines because why would you, if you're able to talk to the unions in Lagos and you're able to deal to passengers, and the passengers you take are not able to go out of Abuja airport, or those in Abuja cannot board, you have virtually wasted your flight. So it's not a city by city thing. It must be in totality to ensure that well, if the government says the power sector and airlines should be out of strike, then that will fly. But when that is not done, the only thing the airlines can do is negotiate for their own counter and their own business. But if you would allow me to do this flight, but then or when they have their own personal problems with the or corporate problems, I mean, with the union. But outside that, it's once a general thing, then it belongs to it belongs on the government to ensure that the airport is available for the airlines and for the passengers.
Well, we know that
negotiations.
negotiations.
Safety of the airport.
Of course, we know that negotiations are still ongoing. We don't know whether the suspended strike will be back, but I know that a lot of people will not want to have that affect the aviation industry because of the overbearing impact it would have on businesses and people movement. Olumide Ohunayo, General Secretary, Aviation Safety Roundtable. It was nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.